We're talking today about how women, specifically African American women, can grow their own businesses in ways perhaps they'd never imagined. Let's welcome to this conversation Dr. B. Thomas. You're a business owner and an author. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Of course. So let's talk about your book. I'm going to have to clean up the title just a bit. It's very direct. It's Expect Blank More, the 5 keys to business success for African American women. Dr. B, let's start with why focus on women in general?
Well, women in general, when it comes to business ownership, it's a topic that often goes ignored. Women start businesses at excessive rates. Women have different success factors when it comes to starting a business. Women have different reasons as to why they go into business. So this is a topic that's very close to my heart. I feel more people need to know about women in business ownership.
And specifically African American women in business. I hear from, right now we're hearing from a lot of restaurant owners, women who own restaurants, and they say, look, I have 2 big dings against me. I'm female, I'm African American, my business is suffering. Why specifically talk to those women?
It's very interesting because, and it's a great question, in the last 12 years, Black women business owners have launched more firms than all ethnicities. As of 2018, these are just some statistics I like to point out. African American women business owners accounted for 20% of all women-owned businesses. So again, women are starting businesses at excessive rates. And between 2017 and 2018, African American women in particular launched 541 businesses per day, higher than all women business owners. And yet with those numbers so high, you would think you would see great success. And unfortunately, we don't.
So before we talk about the keys to business success, what are some of the traps of failure that you've seen?
Oh man, again, very good question. There's so many things that can impede business success. Number one for me would be mindset. A lot of women in particular, they struggle with confidence. Sometimes they even have a fear of success. And that's why in my book, the foundational piece is mindset. You must have the right frame of mind in order to have a successful business in the first place.
And tell me about the 5 keys to business success. Mindset is number one. What follows?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's 5 keys to business success, no doubt, because that's what the title says. However, there's more than just 5 keys. In the book, I talk about what it takes to be a successful business owner. This research actually goes back to 2012 when I researched African American female business owners and I studied what their success factors were. We were not hearing the stories of African American women, and it's so important that we hear these stories. So the book talks about how to cultivate success as an African American female business owner. What are the things that you need in order to be successful? Anyone could benefit from the book. However, I wrote it specifically for this audience because no one else was speaking directly to them.
Do you feel that reaching out, the advice to reach out to people who are already doing what you want to see yourself doing, that's great advice. If you look at the CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies, if you look in most corner offices, those people don't look like us, right? So how do you advise women, and specifically African American women, to seek out their own role models for success?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, one of the issues that African American female entrepreneurs struggle with is not having mentorship and not having networking opportunities. And they don't network the same way that other business owners network. As a matter of fact, research suggests that African American female entrepreneurs, they don't migrate to formal networking. And I think that kind of keeps them out of the loop. It keeps them away from information that could really help them be successful. And that is another key to business success, which is networking and making sure that you're around the right people that can give you information that can actually help your business. This is something we're not doing. This is something we need to do because that mentorship helps us in areas where we may lack information.
I know that there are a million, business conferences and fancy convention centers. If you're saying that women aren't putting themselves in position to be at those big fancy business conferences, what are some other places where you have found in your research and in your experience where women are making those key connections that can lead to business success?
Well, nowadays, we live in an online world. And so people are reaching out through social media. I suggest that, people are forming business groups on social media platforms like Facebook. They're connecting through Meetup, and although things are online now, that still gives people an opportunity to actually connect more so, because you can connect on an international level. You're not just limited to, your city and your state. So what we're seeing now is an increase of business owners who are actually reaching out and networking online.
I know that one thing that maybe men and women might differ a little bit on is that I find, given my old age, right, I'm in my mid 40s, I am not afraid to show the struggle anymore. And I'm also not afraid to hear from someone who says, hey, I'm trying to work in the newsroom you're working in. I've been talking to your boss for months. I've been sending tapes. I'm not getting a response. Can you give me an idea of what they're looking for? And for someone to be so honest with me, it's so refreshing, because I've received 100 emails of, I'm an up and coming anchor in Miami and I'd like to blah, blah, blah. And I just think, like, let's just be real. So is kind of like that taking it down a notch, maybe something that women should focus on doing? Because, I'm very open to that.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, women have to be in a place where they're comfortable enough to let their hair down, where they're comfortable enough to show their vulnerability, where they're comfortable enough to say, hey, I don't have all the information. And this is something that we have to create more safe places where women entrepreneurs can really get together and problem solve in such a way where they don't feel less than. That's very important, that we set up these safe places. Right now, we don't have as many as we could. And there's room for growth.
Always room for growth. Tell me a little bit about your journey to being a business owner and your success.
Okay, well, that's again, wonderful question. My journey to being an entrepreneur starts way back in 2007. I was working for the government at the time, and I simply wanted something more for myself. I didn't want to just work in my 9 to 5 forever. I was able to serve so many people, yet my passions were bigger than where I was. And I find that to be the case with so many people who work, their 9 to 5 job. They want something more, and yet they're really not sure how to make that leap from being a 9 to 5 employee to being a business owner. It's a huge leap. It's a huge leap. So my journey started in 2007, where I was working for myself and working for the government. And eventually I was able to, really get this business thing down. And success for me was, number one, working for myself and not working for anyone else. So that was the first thing that really said, hey, I have arrived. And a few years ago, I reached that position where I'm no longer relying on anyone else to feed me. I'm able to provide for myself. And I think that's a huge leap for any business owner.
I know a lot of people think of owning their own business as, it'll be great, I can work while my children are at school, and then I'll be free the rest of the time. The reality is, I'm sure you know, Dr. B, when you own your own business, you are on that clock 24/7. All questions lead to you. Are there any misconceptions or myths that you would like to bust for anyone who has a very rosy picture of what it's like to start their own business?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, most businesses fail. Okay. And that's just the reality. That's the nature of having a business. And another issue that you're talking about earlier, how people don't like to see the struggle. Business owners struggle, and they often struggle for years before they see their first profit. And this is something that people are not prepared for, because we often see the rosy side of business. Again, going back to social media, people post their yachts and their cars, but we don't see that, they were up 24 hours the night before, struggling and maybe even crying with a business idea. So, I like to tell people the rough truth about being an entrepreneur. And sometimes it is very, very painful and very, very lonely, especially for African-American female entrepreneurs who are often single, who often have kids, who often don't have the same resources. They don't have the dual income in their household. There's a lot of different things that one must consider when going into business, especially if you are an African American female entrepreneur. You have to be mindful of the risk. And that's why I wrote the book.
And finally, I'm talking to you, I'm working from home. We're in the middle of a pandemic here. How has the COVID-19 pandemic only exacerbated some of the challenges many African American business owners have already been dealing with?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, small business owners struggle, and most African American female entrepreneurs operate small businesses. And small businesses, they're the fabric of America. I mean, they employ people, they do so much, and without small businesses, the economy is pretty much just destroyed. And so again, you're coming from a place where small business owners are already struggling to begin with, and then you add this to it. Oh my goodness. Many African American business owners will not recover, and they have been hit the hardest during this time. They were already struggling. Some of these businesses, they don't have business insurance. And this is an issue. Actually, it's a crisis. This is something that we must talk about and we must fix. So this time has made it even more difficult. Some businesses won't even recover. I heard 40%. I was looking at some statistics actually today. What was it? About 40% of the African American businesses won't recover from this. And that's really scary. Really. That's almost half.
It's almost unthinkable, but unfortunately it does seem as though it's reality. Finally, for people who might be new to you or want to hear more from you, are there any online resources you can point our viewers to?
Absolutely. If they can reach out to me at drbthomas.com, find out where I am, what I'm doing. You can purchase the book right from the website, drbthomas.com.
Okay, and the book is Expect Blanking More, The 5 Keys to Business Success for African American Women. Dr. B. Thomas, business owner and author, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.